direct conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't late me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome once again, everyone, to Rec Conversations. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fury, and with me, that's her in the corner, that's her in the spotlight. It's Ms. Leia Cameron.
This is a very, very apt choice of lyrics for today.
Yes, it is. We are recording on Sunday, which is appropriate for this because we will be doing Joseph Michael Linsner's Dawn. But before we get into all of that, let's make sure to introduce our guest. Miss Dawn Baldwin is joining us once again. Mrs.
Yes.
Dawn Baldwin.
That's okay. That's okay. People make that mistake a lot and I don't correct them, so it's all right.
And
Thank you very much for having me back, by the way. I'm glad I didn't burn the bridge while I was standing on it.
Oh,
Kind of
not
cool
at
thing.
all. Not at all. We had a great time
Solid.
the first time around.
Yes, we're gonna have a great time this time around too. I have a feeling.
It should be good. And I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I looked at your channel on YouTube and like my episode had like 26 views the last time I looked. I'm only responsible for about half of that. So I feel like that's a pretty solid following for that episode.
Yeah, I don't track our YouTube as much as I track, like, obviously our podcast downloads, but I should get back on there every once in a while and see what's going on with it. I just like opened it as another avenue, and like it took me a day of learning how to automatically send your podcast episodes to YouTube, and so every once in a while I'm even surprised that I have a YouTube channel for each of our, because it comes up, because of course I'm subscribed to it and I spend like an hour a day like browsing YouTube, and every once in a while I'm like, oh hey, that's an episode of a show I did, so it'll be there after I
was
log
I there?
on. Yeah, right.
You're like, wait, I don't remember that one. I'm gonna have to listen again.
And also auditing today is with her faithful companion Artemis, the pupper. Is the Baronessa, Miss Jennifer Howland. Jennifer, thank you for joining us.
Yes, it's such an honor and such greatness, because like I feel like I've missed that experience, and so this is great. I'm loving this.
Excellent.
She's mostly here to make smart-ass comments while she like scrolls on her phone.
That's what I do
Yeah.
in life.
Like,
that's what I'm here for.
yeah, I was gonna
There
say
are
like
there are definitely quite a bit of smart ass comments to be made about this particular book, so I'm looking forward to that.
and that's obviously why I'm so honored.
So
Get that right.
let's talk about the background of this book a little bit. This is Joseph Michael Linsner's Dawn. This is the second graphic novel that came out. The story is called Lucifer's Halo. It is widely regarded as the most popular of the Dawn stories. It's very, very religious. Joseph Michael Linsner is famous for doing very gorgeous, detailed art, but he takes for goddamn ever to put out an issue. So this was 6 issues. They were released between 1995 and 1997. Yeah,
It'll be a wild ride.
Yeah. The next one after this was actually called, I want to say it was called New Return of the Goddess. Started in 99, didn't end until something like 2005, 2006, and it was only... So, I mean, this is an artist that takes a long time. So, as we've discussed before on this show, sometimes it's difficult to explain a comic without getting into the art or looking at the art, because we are a video podcast. But just know that this is a gorgeous comic. It has a special place for me because I did discover it in 1997 when it came out in graphic novel form, and I was 18 years old.
Porn.
I was in fact.
Sorry,
18
I didn't
years
mean
old.
to say that out loud.
Dawn does walk around in as Leia said before we started recording, lingerie.
Like 100% of the time. 100%.
As I am known to do all the time. Everybody wants to see that. It's like, whoo, I can't get enough.
Okay, one of her outfits is a white t-shirt.
Yes, but
that I
But,
assume
yes.
has like, car wash vibes to it, right?
yes,
Yes.
100%.
Like
Or-
don't even
or-
know that and still know that.
think of, do you remember there was a series of photographs. There was a photographer who used a model named Baruch and painted things on the model, the nude model, to camouflage her into the background. That's what I'm imagining.
Yeah.
So does she have a
Yeah,
t-shirt
not
painted
wrong.
on her?
Oh, it's not a t-shirt. It is basically a white teddy that probably is a thong and low-rise jeans. So
Yeah.
the top
Very
of,
late
of the
90s.
hip, yes, the top of the hip is about a good 6 to 8 inches above the waistband.
Everything
my
about the
gosh.
art styling in this book is classic cliche, what you should never do when you're doing art. Like up to and including the very cliche like 80s 90s comic book pose where somehow the tits and the ass are both facing the viewer at every given moment. Kind of
Yes,
woman's
it is.
body. Like,
I will say it is very, very 90s. And I am glad I'm being checked by having 3 women on the podcast.
Who are probably
there's-
going to be much worse than you. Like
there
let's
isn't
be
a
honest.
moment, there isn't a single moment that a woman is on a panel where her nipples aren't hard enough to cut glass through whatever she happens to be wearing at the time, whether that's armor or a piece of lace.
Okay, but like, does she use them as weapons? Because that's one thing.
You would think that she would, but
no.
strangely no.
Damn,
Strangely
lost
no.
opportunity. Get on that.
Yeah.
No women actually fight in this comic.
Yes, this is true.
All the fighting is done by the main person, Darren, and in Angels and Demons, pretty much. But let's get into it.
Oh, can I interject real quick?
Always.
So I had mentioned because I posted on your wonderful Facebook page for, I think it was Graphically Novel's Facebook page, about the lovely spread that y'all created to do recording recently. And since I had just started binge listening from the beginning, where your episodes were like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
The
good old days.
I don't know if you remember, but as I was listening to the episode about Lucifer, which is a show that I loved for the first couple of seasons, and like they lost me at the dance scene, forever lost me at the dance scene. And you mentioned this comic because you mentioned Lucifer's Halo in that podcast about Lucifer. So that like I was like, oh, that's about to happen, and I just heard about it, and that was literally from like almost 3 years ago. So I thought that was pretty cool. Weird
like
anecdote.
I said, this has a special place in my heart. I understand the problematic parts of it, but hopefully we will come away with the message instead of the way that women are represented. And I will say for the 90s, there is some very problematic but very forward thinking in a weird way. Things that we'll discuss. So,
good time.
So, for those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, how you landed on this episode, I'm amazed. But you apparently know about Dawn and Joseph Michael Linsner, so welcome.
Or it's the 26 views. The other video I did not.
There you go. Yeah. Or you're here to listen to Dawn. Pontificate. So I am the presenting professor, and in fact, for this religious experience, I'll even say that I am the preacher, preacher Jay, and so I will be explaining the plot and page by page of Joseph Michael Linsner's Dawn, Lucifer's Halo. At any point, as the guest, Mrs. Baldwin, because I cannot just say the word Dawn over and over and over again.
Well, yeah, because now you're going to be picturing my nipples.
In a contact case next to your bed.
Yes. Well, you got to take them off every night, otherwise they just get in the way.
Yeah,
especially if you just wear lingerie all the time.
Right.
Right.
It's
true. It's an aesthetic.
Rip right open.
Although I think in this case, the goddess Dawn doesn't have nipples because she's a goddess. She probably doesn't have a belly button either.
We don't need those.
Because she's a goddess.
No.
She's still nurturing.
What do you? Okay, I'm not even going to open that door.
Okay. At any point, Mrs. Baldwin can pull the emergency brake on the show, ask any question, make any comment that you would like. At that point, if it is a question or something that needs a response, it is Preacher L's responsibility as the backup preacher to respond. If she doesn't know the answer, she can throw it back to me, or since we have the Baroness Miss Jennifer Howland here today, we can throw it to her, and Jen will just make up whatever she wants, and it's canon.
Yes.
What I live for.
It's really just kind of a distilled version of our relationship right there.
No
That's how you
lies.
build foundations that last.
That's right.
It's like you know us.
I feel weird about, that I kind of do listen, especially binge listening to these podcasts. Like,
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I did cringe a little bit when you said that you had binge listened to the show, especially starting at the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning.
Oh
is
God,
rough
it's great.
Yeah, there's a reason that I
in season 2. Yeah.
Well, and I also just cannot get any Vandello out of my head either. Like,
Oh, they're so good.
so
Yep. Their entire album is available on Spotify, and their new album, their actual LP, will be coming out by the end of the year. And they will have a new version of our theme song on their album.
Yep.
Oh, yay!
crazy.
Well, okay, I say the graphically novel one, not the Rec Conversations one, since the Rec
that's
Conversations
what I
one
assumed.
is one is an original, one I wrote parody lyrics for, and they were gracious enough to do for us. But anyway, enough dilly-dallying. So this is a 6-issue series, however, there is a prologue, and so we will start with the prologue. And we meet Dawn in the beginning. She is an attractive redheaded woman who wears revealing clothing. Something to know is that she always has her hair down in front of her right eye. You can only see her left eye. And at the beginning here, her eye is clear. That will make more sense. There's nothing. Everything in this book is poetry and interpretation, so we'll kind of do the best we can. There's a lot of metaphor, a lot of conversations no person would actually have.
That's a weird way to start it off.
I mean, it's all kind of in riddles and in things that are always alluding to other things, and it kind of depends on your interpretation to see what they're talking about. So I will do the best I can. I've written all of my notes, but it will be clear that this is my interpretation. Very rarely will I do direct quotes unless it's needed, because there are certain things that are important in the context. So Dawn approaches a god, for lack of a better term, and asks see heaven and hell and what lies beyond. We're not immediately introduced to the figure. The figure is off panel, but the figure tells her all things come at a price and she will stay with him. She says no, she won't stay with him because she doesn't love him, and he says then he must touch her. And she asks his name, and he says, I am love, I am God, I am drama. We learn that Dawn is a young goddess who knows of the world, but seeks to know more. So she sought out the horned god, and the exchange above occurred. He then said his name, Cernunnos, and he says he will love her like no other. He has died 1,000 deaths, and every time he thought only of her. He shows her what she wishes, heaven and hell and the spirit of man. And in that, the pain of the knowledge of all of those things manifests in 3 silvery tears drop from her left eye and kind of stay there like a tattoo. She also, as a consequence of this, develops chains that wrap around her left arm and thorned roses that wrap around her. And that is the prologue.
What? And somebody cue the tale as old as time.
You right?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Intense.
So we start with our main protagonist. His name is Darian Ashoka, and he's awakened by his best friend Janus Goldbaum, and he's been having a dream. And he describes his dream to Janus, and he says there was a girl, Janus was there, and there was an annoying blonde kid. Janus is immediately like the best friend character that takes nothing seriously. She's like, oh, an annoying blonde kid, so you met your inner child.
Dick.
No, he is such a dick. It's great. But he's like the I'm here for you you know, no matter what, but I'm your dick friend, you know?
Sure,
Like,
you can reel it in when necessary, but otherwise you're getting all the sarcasm that I can produce.
Right. That's his
Solid.
love language, pretty
Like,
much.
he just lives to give this guy a hard time.
Yeah. Darian explains that in the dream he was falling, and while he was falling, he was hit with the realization that while the world tells them that he needs to stand tall, be strong, and be a man, if he found a woman he could truly trust, he would just crawl in her lap and bawl his eyes out, which is a weird thing to say, no matter what.
That
This
is
is
just guys being dudes, perfectly normal shit.
Yeah,
And I'm sure, crawling in her lap. Yeah, I'm sure that's where we're going.
Mhm.
well, yes, but like I said, some things are weirdly progressive for the 90s because this was the very beginning of fighting toxic masculinity,
That's
or
true.
at least identifying it. So yeah, it struck me as weird.
But,
in a
like, dudes
comic-
don't cry. What are you talking about?
Well, in a comic that's very 90s, it was just a very odd, you know, who amongst us has not just woken up and told our best dude that if he found a woman he could trust, he would just crawl in her lap and cry.
That's true.
It's very This is we're, you know, barely into this story, but this is the first signal that this is like a product of its time.
Yeah.
You know. It's like,
So-
They're
okay,
like, we're going to start off this way.
right.
Lay the groundwork.
So Darian and Janus go, they leave their apartment and go to the Saturday night Times Square free-for-all, which is a bunch of people going every Saturday night to Times Square in New York, fighting with melee weapons, killing people, and then looting all the bodies.
Again,
Cool.
perfectly normal, perfectly healthy. Unclear as to when this was set either. Like, it's everybody's kind of walking around in like sort of old-timey looking clothes, but they're also in the future.
I mean, and
Yes.
this, as a Chicagoan, this is why we don't trust New Yorkers, because this is the kind of shit they do on a weekend. Like, what?
Bro, do you even
So great.
gun? Uh,
Right? If you can't kill somebody with a sword doing a somersault in the air, like, who are you?
right.
So Darian actually does remark that it still sounds nuts, like that they do this. And Janus actually says, well, it's no nuttier than paying income tax and sales tax, and no nuttier than a gold watch at 65.
I mean, it's a solid point, though. that one had staying power, I gotta say.
65.
Yeah, that was the
Right?
thing that hit me. I was like,
Except for that
65.
didn't have staying power. That's like 95 now.
Yeah,
Right?
who the fuck is retiring at 65?
Who the fuck is retiring?
Right.
Yeah.
that too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're like laying the gold watch on your grave now. They're like, thanks for all your work.
Then they take it back.
Then they take it back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they
was
just
gonna
do that for the
say.
ceremony.
They don't even do that anymore.
Yeah.
No, they don't. Well, nobody stays at jobs. Anyway, that's
Also that.
Yes.
So
They,
they go
they don't
and,
give us a reason to stay.
they go and get into the fight. So they're sword fighting in the middle of Times Square with like thousands of people. When in the middle of the fight, Darian spots Dawn like off to the side next to a building. So he fights his way through the crowd and follows her up a staircase to the top of a building where she greets him by name and they embrace and kiss. He asks how she knew his name, and she says he is Darian Ashoka, slayer of demons and murderer of angels. She has known him through lives he has forgotten, and before he dies, he will rape queens and make love to whores.
Normal. Perfectly normal
Wow.
thing to say.
And like, how loving, and what a great setup for a wonderful future together.
And like, you don't even know this person, and you just making
Well, you
out
know,
with them.
You greet them with a kiss. You know?
So
Like you do.
so weird.
It's just the mid-murder break.
Yeah, be like, oh, you know what? This killing is making me horny. I gotta go find this broad. Like, what the hell is going on?
You also,
Oh my-
you also, my dear, really missed an opportunity in your vows by saying that I would rape queens, make love to whores.
It's true. Well, they
I
could have
don't
been
need
implicit.
to- I don't need to share everything I am with everyone.
Something tells me that's going to be edited out.
Nope. So they sleep together.
As you do.
Wait,
Yeah.
what? Like
Yes.
on the rooftop or whatever?
Yes, there is suddenly like an apartment. Like, so there's a bed. that they end up at.
I mean,
No,
better that than in the middle of all this sword fighting. There's enough sword fighting going on.
Yeah, in the middle of Times
Sure.
Square.
Yes. So it fast forwards to them, waking up in bed, and they've slept together. And she gets out of bed and picks up his sword and starts asking about it. And he said it belonged to his father. And she remarks, "Oh yeah, being an American and a New Yorker, you would be lost without the sins of your father." Like I said,
okay.
not conversations anybody would have.
Yeah.
Yeah, weird. I feel like I should tally these weird anecdotal conversations.
She asks if he believes in heaven, and he says he doesn't go to church. She says that's not the same thing.
I was even going to say that's not the same thing. Apparently, we're the same person. This is great. I was like, that wasn't the question, but okay.
He then asks her if she believes in heaven, and she just responds with, "We've met." She tells him he should go to the cathedral in the east, which is a giant church that is so tall you can't see the top. It's basically like a column, a spire. He will learn something of the nature of heaven there. He finally asks her name, and she quotes Shakespeare and says, "What's in a name? A rose by any other name." And he goes to finish it, and she changes the last part to "would still prick you with its thorn."
I mean, this is my policy as a fellow Dawn as well, so I can get behind that.
She says her name is Dawn, but also tells him to remember that any object, be it broken heart or broken sword, only has as much meaning as you give it.
Wow, insightful.
And then she calls him back to bed.
She was like, "That's enough talky."
Yeah. He wakes up and she's gone. And he goes to find Janus, who is in the middle of Times Square looting all of the corpses because it's morning now and the fight's over. So now you get your ill-gotten gains.
This is like pre-Fortnite.
Kind of, yeah. I mean,
I'm getting.
As a longtime gamer, I do appreciate that this is basically like Diablo, but kept to a certain area and then loot, So he finds Janus, and he tells him he's going to leave New York and go to the cathedral. Janus tells him he'll be back by next Saturday. And he's like, "Okay, well, bye." And so he goes to leave in like a hat and cloak and armor with his father's sword. And he's confronted by a woman named Adele, who he's apparently dating, except she cheated on him, with the butcher's son.
Wow.
Basically she's like, "Oh, you still haven't forgiven me for that whole thing?" And he's like, "I'm leaving New York. But you know what? I forgive you. It's not a thing." And she says he'll be back. He out of town, he kind of sets up a little like campfire. And he's approached by like a drifter who asks for food. And Darian offers him an apple because that's all he has is a bunch of apples. And the drifter's like, "Oh, I don't really want an apple. You don't have anything else?" And
oh yeah.
And so the drifter asks Darian if he's going to the cathedral to find heaven. And when Darian says he is, the man laughs and says, "This close to New York, all you'll find is hell," and walks away.
Mood, though.
Yeah, can confirm. Been to New York a handful of times, can confirm.
Darian gets to the cathedral, and there's like a mile-long line of people waiting to get in.
I don't know why that's funny, but it is.
He surmises there must be an easier way in and kind of starts to walk around the building. And he sees an old man sitting on the ground and asks him if there's a way into the building other than the line. The man says no. And Darian's like, "Wow, that's a really long line." And the old man's like, "Yep, haven't seen it move in a while either." Mm-hmm. And then the old man says, "But, you don't have to wait in line to get to heaven." He is basically sitting next to the building, next to where the sea is, and he's just waiting for the tide to come in. And he says, "It'll be the tide of a new dawn, and I'll be whisked away to heaven." Darian gives the old man his cloak and hat, and begins to just climb the side of the cathedral looking for an open window.
Like everybody else is just in line for donuts or something.
Right.
Like, I'm just gonna get in the window.
So as Darian climbs, he kind of is flooded with like various memories. He thinks about when he caught Adele cheating on him and their fight, and she basically was like, "Yeah, so you caught me. Don't you care?" And he's like, "I guess I really don't." He thinks about his relationship with Janus and like how close they are, and then he thinks about Dawn for a while, and basically it's just kind of, you know, he only really has one memory of Dawn, so he thinks back to that.
Well, I mean, seems like it was quite the night, so.
Yes, well.
And it was like 5 hours ago.
Like, man, I climbed all the way up this cathedral and I can't stop thinking about my one night stand. Okay.
Well, you got to keep going somehow. So whatever
Fine, I
your
guess.
motivation is.
Like, is that how love works? Right? That's right. You know.
Hello, obviously. I'm just like really enthralled with her lingerie.
All of this can be explained by just saying that this dude is obviously in his 20s.
Yes, he clearly
is
is
true.
early 20s.
He's like, well, my girlfriend cheated on me, but man, did I get laid last night. It was great.
Yep.
Yeah. The expectation that his girlfriend cheated on him, and that's bad. But he banged a random broad he met during a giant murder spree in Times Square, whose name he didn't even know is A-OK.
And she said, hey, you should go find religion. It's that way. And he was like, that sounds like a great idea.
Yes, absolutely. Good idea. I had no other plans.
It was like, I'm not going to go to college or get a job or anything. It's like, let's go find religion. I hear it's around the corner somewhere. Just hiding, waiting to be discovered.
This is probably how that XXI cult got started. About it.
Right? Oh my God. And here I thought religion was supposed to come to you.
I mean, if Allison Mack had a one night stand with me and told me to drive in my early 20s and told me to climb a tower, maybe I
It
would.
was a solid correction there, my friend. Solid correction. Course correction. In my 20s.
In my 20s, yes.
Yes.
So he keeps climbing until he's pretty high up and sits on a ledge eating his last apple because he kind of like tries to peek in some windows and they're all stained glass, so he can't see shit. None of them are open. So as he's sitting on the ledge looking over like this sea, he can see the opposite shore in New York. He has kind of a conversation with Dawn as if she's there. Like, she appears behind him, but he doesn't look directly at her, so we're given the impression that she's there but not there.
He's not looking at her ass at night.
He is not.
Remarkably. That's how you know that she's not actually there.
Oh.
He says he's lost, and she says if he's lost, then he must have a home. He says he met a woman and based on that left to seek something else, and that was pretty childish. She responds that he's looking for something important to him, so how is that childish? This whole conversation is broken up by guards for the church that appear on the ledge and want him to surrender because he's not allowed to climb the church.
They look like deranged Knights Templar.
They do,
Oh.
yes. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition.
And like, how big is this ledge? Like,
What you would,
guards out there too?
yes, what you would think about is a ledge, probably like maybe a foot and a half
Yeah.
deep. Yeah.
It's gonna, do wonders for like a takeover.
Right.
Be able to snatch that kid right up.
So he fights them because they want him to throw his sword off of the ledge, and he's like, "This is my father's sword."
Plus, it's gonna hit that old guy down there.
Right. Dangerous. God. Have
Right,
some
thank you.
basic
Hello.
safety,
Killing people in Times Square, okay. Throwing your sword off a building to kill some random dude, not okay.
So he fights them until they basically outnumber him, and then he jumps off of the ledge and into the sea below. The tide has come in, so he
his
does.
luck.
So he does land in water. He washes up on the opposite shore and sees that in the fall his father's sword was broken. He also here finds the corpse of the old man, who is washed across the sea into the opposite.
Please tell me that's not why the sword's broken.
No. He sticks the hilt of the sword above the corpse like a grave marker and tells the old man he hopes he found his heaven. And that is the end of issue 1.
I don't know what to make of that yet.
Darian...
Don't worry, it doesn't get any clearer from here.
So I'm just going to be confused this whole time. That's okay. I'm down for it.
That was certainly my experience in the 90s. Darian is walking back to New York in the dark, counting the reasons he shouldn't go back to New York. He's on reason 111, and the reason is that his friends are not his friends.
Wow. I mean,
That's
once you get
fair.
up that high.
I too experienced friend drama in the 90s.
Yeah,
And,
that was a
and
thing.
in the 2000s, and in the 2010s.
Yeah, right.
Seems to be an ongoing kind of thing.
As he walks, he comes across an angel and a demon fighting. The demon wins, takes the angel's halo, and screams into the night that Lucifer is not the only demon with a halo.
Yeah. Woo!
Wow. That's like a nuh-uh.
Mm-mm.
Meanwhile, in heaven, Dawn has an appointment to speak with God. He meets her at the gate, and she's like, "Oh, so can I come in?" And he's like, "No, all things in due time." Basically, leaves to walk the walls of heaven with Dawn. So God is an attractive blonde-haired man in armor adorned with chains. They walk around the walls of heaven and see some graffiti which reads, "It was more fun in hell." God gets angry and is like, "Goddamn demons." But he very quickly gets over it and talks to Dawn about what he has asked her here. He's a favor. Since she's a neutral party, he would like her to go to hell and get back the halo that he gifted to Lucifer. Lucifer was an angel. It was also a gift from when they were together, and he would like it back. Dawn inquires why they broke up, and God recounts how Lucifer loved him so much that he refused to love man more, even though God demanded that he love man more than he loved him. So his rebellion turned to thorns, which are beautiful, but are roses, which are beautiful, but have thorns that prick. God is
So
about...
wait,
Yep.
I have to pull this emergency brake. So now, okay, I don't know anything about what I assume this is some form of Catholicism. I thought that Lucifer was like one of God's children or something like that, but they're lovers. Is that what,
So it depends.
like how
on
high
what-
am I right now? What is happening?
It depends on what interpretation you follow, but like I am of the understanding that Lucifer was the most beloved of the angels, and this comic has taken that to mean that they are lovers.
Okay, just making sure I was hearing that right. So
Yeah.
I can go on. I can get on board with that.
Yeah, and that's the way that I'm interpreting it too. It's how you interpret the term beloved,
Fair.
or most favored, or yeah. It's definitely a spin on not just Catholicism, because this is Old Testament.
Yeah.
Crazy. And I like, but the spitefulness is still there. Go get me my crown.
Yes, this is very much put in the framework of this was a breakup. This was a romance that broke up because God.
I want my CDs back, you asshole.
Yes. Give me my money back. Give me my money back, you bitch. And don't forget my black t-shirt.
Just exactly.
God is about order, about chains that are heavy when necessary, and rebellion must be dealt with. Lucifer pricked him, so he gave Lucifer hell. He asked that the halo be returned to him or destroyed, because the halo is a gateway between heaven and hell, and that gateway must be closed. Dawn does agree to do it, only because God had the good sense to ask a woman for help, which I think in 1995 is a Tori Amos.
Yeah. I
Oh.
wouldn't be surprised if that were the case, honestly.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
So she then sets off for hell, which she gets to quickly. And in hell, Lucifer meets her at the gates and invites her in, and she refuses, saying all things in good time. So Lucifer looks exactly like God, but instead of chains, he's adorned in rose vines over his armor. And he greets Dawn as Gaia, Isis, Mary, and Kali. He greets her as the goddess of birth and rebirth and the bride of death. And then he asks, what fruit came from such a marriage? And she said, oh, the spirit of man. And he asks how Junior is, and she says, a little lost, but on the right path.
What is happening?
It's a metaphor.
This is I don't know. There's it's like high school. There's too many people.
Yeah,
Are
definitely
you
high school
just
vibe.
not? Are you just not high enough?
maybe yeah, maybe that's it.
Yes,
We need
I
to
can.
work on that.
Can confirm that I'm not high enough for this book.
As they're walking the walls of hell, there is graffiti on the walls of hell that says "Heaven lies within." Lucifer basically just looks at it and is like, "God, demons are so naive." And then he asks Dawn why she's come, and she said she was sent by God for his halo. Lucifer kind of goes into his side of the whole story, which is pretty much the same, that he loved God so much, and God sent him away. And he despises man for that. He blames man.
Typical white guy.
He then goes into what of piece of work is a man, how noble in reason, how infinite in its faculties, in form and moving, how express and admirable, in action how like an angel, in apprehension how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals, and yet to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me. To which Dawn is like, bravo, and she says, I appreciate drama. I'm surprised you didn't go for Milton. To which Lucifer is like, please. She identifies the first quote as from Carmina Burana, and the second from Othello, to which Lucifer loses his fucking mind on her and starts screaming at her and saying it was from Macbeth. And
Wow.
he calls her a message from God mocking him that she is a grotesque and withered whore. He gives her the halo and says God always gets what he wants. He wants this back. That's fine. He'll stay in his farewell gift of hell, but how long until God wants that back as well? And as he walks away from Dawn, his form changes to that of like a winged monstrosity, leaving Dawn alone.
Wow. Every part of that scene reads like Lucifer is an English major.
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Can confirm.
How dare you conflate those wonderful masterpieces? Get out. Like, ooh, okay.
So while Dawn is there, before she leaves the walls of hell, she notices that there's a spray paint can there. So she writes, I love New York with the heart as a yin-yang symbol on the walls of hell.
God, we're not even halfway through and I'm really sick of New York, like already.
New York isn't even the leading lady at this point. Like,
right.
New York is just where things are happening, and we're still like, can we get over it already?
Yeah.
I heart New York. Why is it a union though?
I don't know. It's just, it's probably to be deep, like the heaven and hell together are one. Like,
she's a hippie. Okay.
Yeah.
It's the 90s.
Right.
There you go. See, instead of it's comics, now it's the 90s.
It's important to note too that the artist did a cover for a Gary Newman album, and featuring this character, featuring Dawn. And if you know anything at all about Gary Newman, this absolutely tracks with how this book goes.
So I was actually listening to that album this morning.
Were you?
And discussing it with Jen, because this was Gary Newman's album Sacrifice that was released in the UK as Sacrifice. It was actually released as Dawn in the United States with Linsner's art, and the songs all have to do with this character.
Yep, yeah. And it shows.
What? Is that like just intense fandom, or
I say that as somebody who actually, I enjoy Gary Newman's work, but it's a lot like the context of this. It's a lot like the dialogue and stuff in this book. Like his lyrics are very similar.
Yes, my version of this was Tori Amos, 1000%. I mean, if you look at the lyrics, you're like, what the ever fuck are you talking about?
Well, like, just in a cursory look, there's like a title. One of the tracks is "Love and Napalm," unless I like hit the wrong thing. But what?
No, that seems about right.
Yeah.
No, this book reads as if somebody had heard a bunch of Gary Newman's albums and decided to make it into a comic book.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Oh,
So I'm going to read.
That's like the opposite of a soundtrack. That's like
It actually, while listening to it, because I listened to it while I was writing the notes and reading, and it does go very, very well with this comic. It pairs like a fine wine.
Oh, sure.
crazy.
I'm going to read the first part of the third issue, and then I'm going to break for all three of you to make all the comments that I know you're going to make. So Darian is talking to a pair. He's in a bar back in New York, and is talking to a pair of blonde twins who are Charity and Faith. He asks what the difference is. Charity says, Charity gives without investment, but Faith demands an investment, but rewards generously. Darian asks where Hope went, and they respond, she went to LA, to which he responds, yuck.
Already.
I mean, I can agree with the yuck. At least they mentioned another city. That's cool.
Hope went to LA only to be murdered immediately crossing.
Yes,
Yeah.
she was known to everyone as the Black Dahlia.
Right.
Oh my God. See, in here, I thought she went to like pursue her acting career or something.
Well, she probably
Well,
did.
that's what the Black Dahlia was doing.
Oh, okay, that works.
Yeah. There is no hope in LA.
Right.
There really
Exactly.
just isn't. But I mean, is there any in New York City either? It seems to be the case that is not. That no.
In the year of our Lord
Major
2022,
coastal
is there any anywhere?
Yeah,
This is
like,
also true.
major
spreading.
coastal cities got nothing going on.
I really don't, except for I don't know, death and despair.
Different comic book.
Sad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're covering that next season.
right.
Oh, okay.
So as Darian's talking to Charity and Faith, he looks over their shoulders and notices Janus and Adele are both here, and they're together and in the bar. And they look like they are together.
How
He
dare
makes
they.
it. He makes his excuses and slips out the bar's back door. And while he's walking down the street, he runs into the Drifter, who says, "Hey, do you have any of those apples?"
I changed my mind. I've been waiting for you.
Yeah.
Darian says, "He who hesitates is lost." And the Drifter's like, "Oh, okay. Well, did you make it into heaven?" And Darian says, "Yeah, I did, but I didn't like the view, so I left." The Drifter calls him a piece of work, and Darian says, "What a piece of work is man." And as he walks down the street alone, he finishes the quote. And Dawn appears in the t-shirt, jeans,
It's not a team.
the onesie in jeans.
Basically it's a thong bodysuit, like a high cut thong bodysuit.
Right.
Very, very popular around the time that this was drawn. But definitely barely there. Like the it's cut high so that all of her hip is exposed, but the jeans only come up to just above the pubic hair. So
Yep.
like
No, I would say just above the big bone, and there's
Yeah.
probably
yeah,
she doesn't have nipples, so probably.
yeah, that's true.
It's true. They come together, I guess. It's a package deal.
So yeah, it's not like your standard white t-shirt and jeans. It's
Yeah.
it's something. It's a master class in physics is what it is, because I don't know how it's attached to a body.
Yeah. Well, yeah, other than glue or tape.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
So don't think Courtney Cox in Born in the USA video with Bruce Springsteen, white t-shirt and jeans. Don't think that. This is something entirely.
You said Courtney
like,
Cox, and for some reason I thought of Courtney Love, and I don't want that image in my head anymore.
Well, that's your own fault.
Too late.
So she appears after he's done with the quote and asks what he was quoting, and he says it's a quote from Hamlet. And she asks if he's sure it wasn't from Othello, and he says no, Hamlet's the only Shakespeare he ever learned. And Dawn starts laughing uproariously, and basically for the rest of this conversation, she's like, Lucifer, fucking idiot.
Oh my God. She's just happy to be like, yeah, that guy.
She's like, I was wrong too, but he was wrong.
Yes, he
Well,
was
wait.
like emphatic in his wrongness.
So she trusts this dude and his knowledge of Shakespeare. Okay.
But not Lucifer.
Well,
Yep.
not like, hey, check it out. You know, you're a deity, figure it out, or a goddess, or
Read a book.
Yeah, she's just running
Read
around
a
getting
book,
different
right?
opinions.
Read a fucking book. Educate yourself, lady.
Educate yourself.
Don't trust
Oh,
men
she's like,
to tell
I'm just gonna
you.
keep asking dudes until I get the answer I
Right.
want, and then I'm happy. Which sometimes I can relate to. I'm gonna ask around, and as soon as somebody gives me the answer I want, I'm good to go. Like, I don't have to ask anymore. Yes, I agree with you.
You there, random man, let me quote Shakespeare at you. Now, what play was that from?
Right? Exactly. Please mansplain it to me so that I can understand it better.
I don't know. If you're seeking it out, I don't know that it's mansplaining. It's more like man Googling.
Man Googling. Oh, God,
I
she's
kinda
out there
like
man
that.
Googling.
Man,
That's
good.
solid.
I'm feeling lucky.
Yeah.
So Darian catches Dawn up on his journey thus far and says since he met her, he's seen angels and demons. And she basically says it's a strange and wonderful world if he opens himself up to it. And he's like, but no, I know it's real. I know what I've seen is real. And she says, all things happen at once. This is the only world. There is no other.
Okay, like, pause again. What the fuck is with her Hallmark quotes?
This is just how she talks throughout the entirety of
Like, she should go work at Hallmark.
the.
There's just so much of, like, just, I don't know, very random, thoughtful and thought-provoking statements.
Yeah,
It's just like, I feel like every time I just open a card and that's what she says, and I'm gonna
yeah,
close the card.
it works a lot better, like conceptually. You know, again, if you visualize this as just being a song that somebody decided to draw,
Oh,
A
finally, I
very-
get to see the song.
a very very '90s song that someone decided to draw.
Oh
You
my
will
gosh.
rape queens and make love to whores. Happy Father's Day,
I
Dad.
am positive if that isn't a direct Gary Newman quote, I don't know what is.
Oh my god. And like, do they have a separate section for those cards at Target, or are they you could be like mixed in with the rest? So you could like be in the 5th birthdays and you're like, oh, not that one though.
Well, they have them in two sections. They have them in the section where it just says it in nice calligraphy, and then they have it in the music section where you open the card and Gary Newman actually
Plays.
sings.
Oh, this is actually a really solid entrepreneurial idea. Like we could sell this, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
A very specific audience, but
And as I think about it, the queens and whores phrase, I would put more of a Tom Waits to that gravel voice.
Yeah, okay.
You will rape queens and make love to whores.
Oh my god.
oh no.
All right. So she asks, she says, while you were on your way to meet me, when you saw me in Times Square, you killed a man on your way to me. Can you remember what his face looked like? And he's like, what does that have to do with anything? And then she says that the next angel he meets, ask it if it knows his name. And he's like, yeah, I'll do that. And then he leans in and like doesn't kiss her, but they're discussing her tear marks that are under her eye. And he reaches for her face, and with his thumb, he's able to wipe them away. She says he's the only one that can do that, and he's the only one who can make her cry. And he says he will never make her cry. And she says, oh, Darian, you're only a child, but aren't we all?
A child that she just had sex with, but okay.
She
Don't
then
open that
gives
door.
She then tells him she has a gift for him and gives him a Frank Sinatra album like cover with Lucifer's halo in it.
I have
Like
no
instead of the
earthly-
album,
Yeah,
Yes.
I have no earthly idea what that is supposed to mean at all.
it was just a nice carrying case.
Like,
I had to put it somewhere. What am I going to do? Like wear it as a bracelet?
Which is interesting that you say that because he gets rid of the album cover and basically hangs the halo from his belt for the rest of the fucking story.
yeah.
Oh my god! Like what? How's okay? Nobody's
Yep.
going to see it or take it, or are you going to use it as a? Are you just like that cool that you're like, I gotta hang this? It's like the new belt
Yes.
buckle is just
Have you-
Lucifer's halo.
Have you ever seen Xena? Pretty much like her
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
her
Or it's
murder
like a
Aerobee or whatever she has.
Or it's like Wonder Woman's lasso of truth or something.
Yes, like that. Yes.
I'm just gonna hang it there.
Yep.
See, this is where the '90s utility belts came in really handy. You can hang your halo on it.
Shocked he doesn't have a fanny pack, frankly.
Well, he doesn't have his father's sword anymore, so.
That is true. That is true. I wonder if he hangs this halo on the corner of a 4-post bed.
Oh, God damn it.
Points to Dawn.
And thank you, everybody. Great show. Have a good
Well, this has been the last episode of Red Conversations. We're just going to end it midpoint.
There's more discussion of halos later in the book.
Yes. Well, you're going to have to put them somewhere. That's all I'm saying.
So as he pulls this halo, like, out of this album cover, she disappears. And an angel, like, flies down and basically calls Darian by name and demands that he give him the halo. And is like, don't fight me. Just give me the halo. It doesn't belong to you. Like, and he's like, no, it's a gift. And he's like, okay, well, she had no right to give it to you. Just give me the halo. And when he refuses, the angel's like, listen, demons are going to come for it. And there's no guarantee that there will be any angels around to protect you when they do. So Darian says, well, I've seen what happens to angels, and I'll take my chances. They have a scuffle, and Darian kills the angel somehow. Like
with the halo?
No. Like with his offhand, and I stared at this, I like looked at it 4 times today, because his father's sword's gone, he's made no indication that he has like a knife or anything, and his hand, clenched fist, kind of hits the angel, but like in a stabbing motion, but it hits angel armor. So I'm not sure exactly how the angel dies, but the angel dies.
Yeah.
Maybe he got one of those like Statue of Liberty tourist souvenirs while he was in New York, and he's like, that's just stab, and he runs away.
It just kind of looks like he sort of half-ass punches him in the stomach, but that like kills him somehow.
That's not a very strong demon, then I'm thinking.
I believe this
or
is
angel or whatever.
This is a good opportunity that since we have Jennifer here, she can make up exactly how the angel died.
Yes.
So it's like
no pressure.
His hands are killed.
Oh.
Okay.
Step 1. Step 2 is he has been to one of the Vietnamese nail salons, and they have very long.
Yes, concealed weapons
that don't break on angel armor.
That's right. And 3, his name.
Wow.
Don't drive around the Chicagoland area then.
Wow. Okay.
You asked.
Nope. Nobody's allowed to go to Four Corners anymore because you can't say that name. That's just an area-specific joke.
Yes, yeah. I understood that reference.
You did understand that reference.
So as Darian stands over the dead angel, a horde of demons approach, and they try to jump him, and Darian fights and kills all of them. They are what you would expect demons to kind of look like, except a couple of them. Like, there's one that's like got the body of like almost like a wiener dog, but with 3 infant heads.
Yeah.
And
so
every
it's
time
like that scary 3-headed dog, but in reverse.
Oh, across the side of the body, though.
The hell?
Yeah, it's really weird looking. I don't know how to describe it better than that, really.
Yeah. And like as he chops the head off, another one will just come up, so he has to like Ginsu the shit out of all of them like multiple times. But while he kills them all, and then when he's standing there alone, Dawn's words come back to him: "Slayer of demons, murderer of angels, you will rape queens and make love to whores. Come, let us adore you."
Wow. So he's like, well, I got step 1 and step 2 done. Is it time for step 3 yet? Or am I ready for that phase? Did I level up yet?
Instructions are just suggestions.
Right?
So he starts walking towards he starts walking towards Queens.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the end.
I don't know how you're going to manage that. That's going to be really weird. That's like an entire area, but good luck with that.
That is the end of issue 3. We are halfway through this book.
What the hell?
I understand Completely. I also understand like that. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. We're only halfway done.
This is continue.
So from a rooftop, demons are watching Darian walk the streets. The demon is wearing the angel's armor and carrying its sword with Lucifer's halo on its belt. The demons attack, and Darian dispatches most of them. The leader has stayed back and basically is like, no, I just want to talk. And the leader says that he knew the angel that Darian had killed, named Michael. But before the war, they were friends. Darian charges and slashes the demon, who's like, no, don't! I just want to talk! He slashes the demon so like the demon is slowly dying. And as the demon dies, it says when it was a child, its mother told it that it was ugly. And now, as it's dying, all it can remember that's all that it can remember of its mother. And hell is a place of brutal honesty. The next 30 seconds, I'm going to say there's a trigger warning, so go ahead and fast forward it if you don't like, if you are sensitive to stories on animal cruelty.
Oh,
because this demon
how
then
do I
talks
fast
about...
forward? Oh, that's not gonna be enough. Okay, I'm ready. Thanks for the trigger.
The demon talks about being young and seeing a kitten with a leash, and he hung the kitten from a tree on impulse, but when he looked the kitten in the eyes, it realized it couldn't kill it because it was so innocent, so he took it down and hugged it. But while he was hugging it, the kitten scratched it deeply, and in that moment, the demon realized nothing was innocent, so it bashed the kitten's skull in with a rock.
Oh, okay, as like a bona fide cat lady, that is heinous.
Yeah, certainly a choice.
He could have gone a different way, but okay.
Yeah, Darian basically like jams the sword into the demon's body and starts taking off Michael's armor, like to maybe just leave it there. When he's knocked out by an angel that comes up. There's like 3 of them that come out of nowhere. Darian comes to just in time and kills them, all 3 of them. One of them by beating it to death with his hands. He immediately gets up, walks to the nearest bar, walks in, looks at the bartender and orders a bottle and says, I just killed an angel with my bare hands.
For somebody who just got laid, this guy has a lot of incel energy.
I have
what
thoughts about that I'll probably go over at the end.
Yes.
There's only one other person at this bar, and that is Janus. So Janus looks over and they reunite, and Janus tells Darian that he hooked up with Adele and she cheated on him, and he'd never guessed with who. And Darian's like, with the butcher's son? And he's like, yeah!
How did you possibly know that?
But while they're talking, Janus sees the halo on Darian's belt and reaches for it and is like, hey, let me see that. By instinct, Darian pushes him away and off of his bar stool, which instantly pisses Janus off to the point that he says, you're gonna die, and attacks Darian, demanding the halo. Darian lays him flat and walks out of the bar.
Yeah.
Very weird flex.
Indeed.
Again.
Plus, when you think about it in the context of it being on your 4-post bed, that gives it a whole different spin. Very strange. Hands off my wallet circle, okay?
This all seems to take place in a weekend, and he did have a one-night stand.
Mm-hmm.
True. Very true.
So Darian's walking down the street, and he's basically just looking at the halo, and like the way that it is drawn, you can tell like he hates what this halo has brought into his life. And as he's walking, we see that Dawn is watching him and that is the end of issue.
Creepy.
At the beginning of issue 5, Darian is awoken the same way 4 times. In the first, it's a mother figure waking him up for school. In the second, it's a superhero figure waking up to go fight crime. In the third, it's a mask of comedy, he's tragedy, waking him up to realize his destiny and face death. And in the last, which is the real, he reacts in the same way each time. He screams, no, I don't wanna. But in the last, it's Adele waking him up, and he screams no and like slices out with his sword and hits the wall right next to Adele.
Damn.
And she responds by telling him that there's too much violence in his life. She's come back because she cares about him, and Neil meant nothing to her. When he asked who Neil is, she said, Scott, the butcher's son.
Oh no. I mean, you go, girl, for not being able to keep track. More power to you.
Yeah. So there is a lot of slut shaming of this character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They discuss their relationship, and she says she can change him, and he says, I don't think you can. To which she's like, oh, okay, well, I guess goodbye then. No, she says, goodbye, Joseph. And then she goes, Darian. Goodbye, Darian.
Oh, that's like when you meet somebody and use the wrong name on purpose because you want to, assert your dominance and show your power.
Right.
Like, oh, nice
There's
to meet
also
you.
some like gross gendered shit in here too about how like you're a woman, so you naturally want peace, but I'm a man and I crave rage and destruction. Like, it's okay, buddy. Sure.
It's true.
Right?
Yes.
Like, not
I
everything
left
needs
all
a
that out.
vengeance.
So while she's walking away, a demon comes out of the shadows, grabs Adele, and basically demands Lucifer's halo for her life.
Not at my
Darian fights the demon, and while
Oh.
Darian does kill the demon kills Adele.
Big love.
Darian calls to the sky and basically says, that's it, I'm ready. To which like a legion of angels appear on one side and a legion of demons appear on the other side of it. Each of them are calling on Darian to join their side. Darian, the big battle breaks out. Darian is fighting both sides, but as he keeps fighting, he becomes Cernunnos, the horned god.
Oh, shit. Transformation.
Once he has killed all of the angels and all of the demons, he kind of appears in this white space before dawn. Darian demands to know what's going on with no riddles. His life has been hell since she gifted him the halo. Dawn responds with, hey, you didn't have to take it. Which makes Darian so mad, he threatens to kill her, grabs her by the shoulders, and violently shakes her, demanding she tell him the truth. He kind of realizes what he's just done and lets her go, like with this shocked look on his face. And as she stares at him, 1, then 2, then 3 tears appear under her left eye in the tattoo, and she repeats, only you. She reveals to him that he is the horned god. He's the reincarnation of the god of death. She has died 1,000 times each time she thought of him. And that is the end of issue 5. The beginning of issue 6, Darian and Dawn are in bed.
Yeah,
Oh my God, what is with it? Like, I feel like I'm starting to have hallucinations and delusions. Like, there is so much jumping that I'm like, did I imagine that you said that? Or
We actually have a
did you
really
actually
funny,
say that?
we have a super funny story about that when we're done with this, that Leia
Oh,
and I
yeah.
have. While she's laying in bed and like asleep, he moves the hair out from in front of her right eye and is shocked to find that she has 2 eyes.
Well, yeah. What else you covering up? Like, obviously, there's nothing there. It's like the nipples.
You may recall that in the 90s, it was not common for girls to have 2 eyes.
Just the one. Just the one.
Just one.
He tells her he's going to summon heaven and hell and end this and just, see where it goes. He gets ready to leave.
Because that's going to be a disaster, but okay.
Yep. He goes to leave knowing it will be a long time before he sees Dawn again. She confirms that. And then they tell one another that they love the other. And he sees the Drifter wearing the hat that he had given the old man. And he's like, and the Drifter's like, I didn't steal this hat. I found it next to the shore.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure.
Right. Well, and then the Darian's like, well, can I trade you something for the hat? And the Drifter's like, I'll give it to you in exchange for that halo. And Darian actually considers it and then says, no, I can't do that to you.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there goes the end of the insult vibes, because there was actually like a little bit of compassion there.
Right. He then goes to the middle of Times Square, lifts his hand into the air, and summons heaven and hell. God and Lucifer appear on either side of him.
How do you know how to summon?
Wolverines!
Okay, they asked and answered.
God said that he made the halo, so it belongs to him. Lucifer says it was a gift, and God says, well, we all make mistakes. Lucifer asks why he can't be forgiven, and God said he's being punished. To which Lucifer responds, well, we all make mistakes. God says, enough talking, it's over, and Darian says he's right, that forgiveness is a form of trust, and trust is a form of faith. And without faith, you have nothing but a broken heart and a broken sword, and things only have the power you give them. So in between God and Lucifer, Darian smashes the halo on the ground, shattering it. To which these two petty queens, God looks at Lucifer and says, he broke your halo. To which Lucifer says, I didn't want it anyway.
Honestly, this entire scene, I like visualized playing out in the halls of our high school.
Yes.
Like 110%. You literally pick any clique, any group of folks. There's two people breaking up, making a fucking scene, and everybody's just standing there watching, and then somebody gets hurt or something gets broken, and then they're like pointing fingers at each other. Like 110%. That just played out in the hallway. Yeah, exactly. I didn't even like you. I did you a favor by going out with you.
I didn't even need that trapper keeper, Brad.
Oh my God, seriously. Take your starter jacket back. I want it.
So God tells Darian that tonight he will sleep the sleep of the just, and he and Lucifer decide. Darian gathers the fragments of the halo, which have now turned into gold.
Normal.
Wow.
He runs
like
into
gold he can sell for something? Get the grifter a new hat or something?
Well, he does run into the drifter again, and he exchanges the sword for his hat back.
Oh, okay. Nice.
He then goes to the docks and books passage on a boat to Europa with the shards of the halo. He and the sailor have a talk about their fathers, both of whom were sailors. Darian says his father wanted to be buried at sea, but was buried in Astoria. The sailor asks if Darian cried, and Darian says he didn't. He thought he needed to stand tall and be a man. The sailor says he was the same way until 20 years later when it all came at once and he cried buckets. Even now, it's just there, under the surface. Darian goes to his cabin to get some sleep and looks out the porthole. And they are passing the cathedral, which has fallen into the sea. He dreams of Dawn, who comes to him with white hair and hands him his father's sword. He asks if he's meant to break it, and she says he must be true to himself. So that's when he says, I miss my father, and breaks the sword the same way he broke the halo. He wakes up and goes to the deck of the ship, looking to the sky, and basically saying, I miss you, father, and starting to cry. And the last image is the ship on the sea, and in the horizon is the figure of Dawn, white as the sky.
What the hell?
That is Lucifer's halo.
Yeah. It's certainly a book.
I don't even. I'm just like, my mouth is wide open. I'm just like, I have no words because they used them all for starters. Like, damn, but
I gotta be completely honest. I did not enjoy this at all.
I understand that there is a certain amount of nostalgia involved in this book. Sure.
And I think maybe it hit different for me because I read it as a 42-year-old adult woman rather than, a 16-year-old young girl.
Right.
But like everything in it just reminded me of like the very overblown dramatic nature of a certain type of dude in the 90s. There's like a photo of the author in the back, and that really told me all I needed to know about this book. He looks like any guy you'd see at a LARP or in the back room of like a gaming store or whatever. Like he definitely he looks like the epitome of the 90s, borderline incel, ready to whip out his Magic the Gathering cards at any opportunity. And here's his book he drew with full of women in scantily clad clothes who just cheat on him and lead him on all the time. Like,
oh my gosh.
It is. I did not enjoy this book in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry to say it. I wish that I gotta be honest. This is painful.
I totally understand with the advantage
of
I
just
age.
looked at the picture. Yes, yeah. I see it. There it is. I had to look that one up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, something that you should know. This is the original copy. that I'm holding that I bought in 1997. I've had it ever since. I did not buy this in a comic book store. Can you guess where I bought this?
Walmart.
Hot Topic.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, Hot Topic. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't go in there. That was too dark for me. Little pop queen. Now I'm like, ooh, they have dildos in the back. No, I don't think that's Hot Topic. I think that's the other one.
That's Spencer's.
Spencer
Gifts. Yeah. Yeah.
They just have snarky buttons at Hot Topic. That's what I go in for. Snarky buttons.
Yes, I frequented there very often, as I'm sure you probably remember, what with my velvet dresses and PVC skirts and so on and so forth.
Yes.
My fishnet
When you
stockings and dog collars.
When you, Meredith, Hollywood, and JR were here for the Riverdale weekend, we went to a Hot Topic.
Yes.
Specifically,
They did
went
not
to a
just
Hot
be.
Topic.
It did not used to just be filled with like funny SpongeBob shirts.
No,
Oh, no.
it was like the back wall was literally like the closest you could get to fetish gear without it being fetish gear.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're like, Mom, seriously, it's just a necklace.
Right. That's a choker with a place for a leash. That's not just a necklace. Yeah.
That's a normal thing for a 17-year-old to wear. God.
Jeez. Stop trying to stifle my self-expression.
My senior photos tell a totally different story.
Oh my God, I have my yearbook. I gotta look now.
Dawn, you're gonna lose it. I'm in a
this
velvet
is
dress
me.
and I'm wearing a dog collar, like a velvet medieval dress, and I'm trying to look like the art in this book, basically.
Let's see. Well, I look one way too. I look like the pop queen I claim to be. Oh my God, yes.
I told you.
Sorry, I did not mean to scream to our
It's
earbud
okay.
users, but wow.
Oh, I was literally just
So
thinking
great.
of that photo the other day, and I was like, where were my parents? Why didn't they make me take a normal photo?
Well, truthfully, just look at the rest of the page and you'll find out that that's true for everybody.
Yeah. Like, I remember we were told that we could bring one prop for our yearbook photo, right? Like, and that meant for normal fucking kids, like, if you played volleyball, you brought your volleyball, and like maybe you took like a set of photos in your volleyball uniform, because you were allowed like one change of clothes and one prop.
Yeah.
And so, or if you're on the football team, you brought maybe your helmet and your like a football, and then you could pose with that or whatever. But I was not a normal child, so I brought two different extremely goth / fetish wear style dresses and a sword.
What? Oh my God, you got through the building with a sword, man. Times were different.
It was the 90s. It was like this little rapier like thing that like you couldn't hurt anybody with it. It was very flimsy. It was like some ceremonial thing. I don't know. My grandfather literally found it in a dumpster and gave it to me. But like I thought
you
it was
find the best
coolest
stuff in a
thing.
dumpster though. Like
It's
Yeah, like I just thought it was the coolest thing. Like it did not have sharp edges or anything like that, but I was just like, ooh, I'm so profoundly goth by carrying this around. God, like I am embarrassed.
It's so great though. It's so great to think about like how freaking different we really were. I mean, because it's not like 5 years ago. It still feels like 5 years ago. It is
No,
not.
I know.
Anyway, sorry. Trip down memory lane.
Yes.
Also, to give you an idea, at Dragon Con, from I don't remember, I can't find where the first one was. I'm finding bits and pieces on LiveJournal describing this. But there was a Dawn lookalike contest that ran for years.
Yeah. It's actually in the back of the book. Ever since 1997, Atlanta's Fabulous Dragon Con has hosted a Dawn lookalike contest. Literally hundreds of women have brought Dawn to life at this point, and the contest only gets bigger every year. I have never heard of this in my life, my friends.
Well, how much stuff have you ever heard of from Dragon Con? It's a very specific
Right.
community. Like, I'm not big in the cosplay community, so it is very, it's a niche thing. But yeah, it ran until 2011. Where it was just replaced by comic girls like contest.
Yeah, it's
So
something.
we hinted at this earlier when we talked about how much this book jumps around, and I mistakenly kind of screwed up Leia's initial introduction to this book. I had a digital file that I did not know was missing like every fifth page, and neither of us really figured it out because the book jumps around so much.
You're
Right.
like, yeah, that tracks.
Right.
I
No, I mean,
figured-
I read through the entire thing and I was like, this is the most incoherent book I've ever read.
I got about halfway through and realized that it was missing something because I knew the book
Sure.
and like started to look back and I'm like, oh shit.
You're like, so what had happened was,
Right.
yeah, it is definitely hard to follow, at least verbally. I don't know, is it just as bad visually though?
It really is, at least in my opinion. It was still a little difficult for me to tell what was going on. I personally do not think that the author is a good artist. I think that all of his characters pretty much look the goddamn same the entire time. So it's very difficult to tell the difference between Darien, Satan, God, NPCs. They like, all of them pretty much look the same. All the women pretty much look the same, except with different hair colors and slightly different skin tones. So like,
Yeah.
I just, I was just like, okay, some blonde lantern jaw is talking to another blonde lantern jaw. Okay. Like there were no distinguishing features between the two.
Yeah, I mean, flipping through it right now, the only person that comes off as distinct is Janus.
Yes, and he looks like the character model for him was based on Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Yes, but with a Viking helmet instead of a top hat.
With a Viking helmet, yes, instead of a top hat, because they didn't want to
he's
run into
literally
any
like-
type of
Like comic relief.
yeah, what little there is.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like, well, I don't know which comic part, where the comic part was, but relief anyway. I don't hate it.
It's a
So
little relief.
but yeah, right. I think it's interesting. It's very it seems very, very metaphor heavy.
Yes,
And
very-
I love metaphors. But it was hard to track. So I'd be curious to see like sitting with it. And
Yeah,
so
Yeah.
that
and
might
it-
give me a different perspective, but it's a lot. And it's like very content heavy with like very little connection.
yes.
Right. Well, and it's so much of it is up to interpretation. And again, this is definitely one of those things that I'm like, I like this. I've had this forever, but I totally understand why in 2022 this is not okay.
Does not land the same.
Right.
Yeah.
But it also did have a lot to do with my early kind of interpretation of religion in general, and my own kind of questions about what really is the difference that we're given between heaven and hell, and a lot of those concepts.
Sure.
So which led down my merry little path to atheism. So
Yeah, it definitely has a lot of very strictly Christian concepts to it.
Yeah.
Like
Poorly drawn. Not necessarily like actually physically drawn, but like poorly
Right.
drawn connections.
Right, like there's a lot of even the concept of heaven and hell is pretty strictly Christian. We Jewish folks don't have hell. That's not a
Mhm.
thing. So like right away you kind of get the impression, you're like, okay, we're going to talk a lot about, or we're going to pontificate a lot about like, the nature of goodness and light and Christ and, the evil of the devil and Satan and whatever, and it's in my opinion, and again, I apologize, Josh, because I
No,
did
it's
not
okay.
enjoy this. It really was trying real hard to be profound and thought provoking, but just came off as like really dumb. Like, that very fake intellectual, like, oh yes, I have some deep thoughts about the nature of Judeo-Christian heaven and hell, and it's no, you don't. Like, there's broads with their nipples hanging out. Like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. How transgressive. Ooh, you're making Jesus angry. Like,
You're not 80s Madonna. Calm down, okay? You're pissed off the community that much. Well, I like the whole like. There's literally a line outside of heaven, and it's very God is a DJ because there's like a line outside of the
Yes.
club.
right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Yes.
As I
Um,
think about it, I'm like, it was filled with so many like strange, very 90s kind of influence, and it's really funny.
Yes,
As I sit
very
and like
much.
absorb it, I'm like kind of like a bunch of these other things. Like people are just standing outside the club waiting to get in.
Yeah, and there's no
This
line.
guy's like, fuck that line. I'm climbing up. I'm climbing. I'm going in
There's
the back
no
door.
line
Like,
for hell either. Like there's no line for hell.
Right. Yeah.
Like
Well,
there's
no,
a
'cause
line
he's-
for heaven, but there's no line for hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's telling that God will not let Dawn into heaven, but Lucifer is like, come on in, and
Yeah.
she's like,
Right.
no.
All are
No.
welcome here.
Right.
You know, so
we'll take
yeah.
literally anybody here. You don't have to pass a test, right? It's not like TSA for the fucking hell. To take off your shoes or anything, you'll be fine.
Also, one of the things that I will give this is, especially in this time period, there was so little queer representation, basically anything. So to frame the fall of Lucifer in the context of
Yeah.
jealous gay lovers,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's a step. Is it
That's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
great step? No, but
Yeah.
it's a step.
It's something I would have found very profound again in 1997 at 17 years old. I would have been like, wow, this
Yeah.
really, like, this is so unique a perspective and it's really deep. And now, again, in the year of our Lord 2022, I'm like, okay.
25 years later, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I know, whatever.
Right. And the idea of heaven as chains and hell as roses, you know, again, it's a very late teens, early 20s, like mind blown kind of concept, but now
Yeah.
it does not work. So I'm glad this has been part of my experience, you know, but it is definitely one of those things that goes into the vault, and we all realize, you know, as we get older that certain things are toxic, and this has I left a bunch out of this. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Like really bad things intentionally left
there's
out,
a-
or like not just stuff that you're like, okay, it's already kind of filled with these sort of
there's
side
demons,
quests. Like,
there's-
let's just move on.
there's demons using an F slur that's not fuck.
Oh,
There's
thank you
a
for
lot
leaving
of
that out.
yeah, there's a lot of some of that stuff that
Yeah.
again, 90s.
The treatment of women is also not the best.
Yeah.
In terms of the art and like how they're portrayed, because the only woman that you see aside from Dawn is really that Estelle chick, and she's just portrayed as like a dumb hoe who can't stop spreading her legs,
Mhm.
and you know is chronically unfaithful because she's bad. You know, it just,
Right.
I don't know. I didn't like a lot of the way that and that's really the only, I think that's really the only other woman that has anything to do with anything in this book.
There's Charity and
awesome.
Faith, but
Oh, yeah.
they are just there to flirt and make double entendres.
Yeah.
Mhm. Have a philosophical conversation.
You know, I don't even know that it was that philosophical. I think it was
No.
more, we're gonna take our names and talk about sex in a roundabout way, you know?
Yeah.
That's not philosophical. I've been doing it wrong this whole time.
No, you actually have to penetrate.
Just,
Just
you know,
can't show
next
that
time,
on screen.
next time you're feeling horny, just go to Times Square in the middle of the murder brawl and find a random dude to bone.
Precisely.
And stay the night. Who does that? Like, I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm
she
leaving
didn't
after
stay
we're
the
done.
night. She didn't stay the night. She
Oh,
was gone
okay.
by morning. Yeah.
Oh, that
Well, but you've
temptress.
got to find the guy who has a rooftop that
Somehow.
Yeah, I
Yes.
bet you can't find. Just like get an Uber to that. Put that in as your destination. They're like, I have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. You're like, I don't know. I read this book.
So that was Lucifer's Halo.
Time. That was time and
Yes.
things. Those words for sure.
Yeah, and one of the things I wanted to mention, this was an indie label named Sirius, Sirius. As far as I know, this is the only thing that I've ever read out of that label. So yes, also on top of everything else, it was a 90s indie comic.
Right.
So,
And that's
Fair.
really where during the 90s a lot of people just let their freak flag fucking fly.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
as-
There was a lot of do you, and that's it. Everybody do you.
as I mentioned, I bought this comic at a Hot Topic. I probably bought it at the same time that I bought a Johnny the Homicidal Maniac graphic novel. You know,
Who was
Yeah.
watching you?
I was 18 in 1997.
No supervision.
Nobody was in charge of you.
Somebody should have been in charge of me, but no.
I bet you waited till you were 18. You're like, I'm buying this fucking comic now.
I think it came out in 97. The graphic novel all came out. I did have a friend that was collecting it in single issues and was frustrated because it took 5 to 6 months for a new issue to come out.
Wow.
Well, we didn't have that much access to porn. We were still in LimeWire days.
Oh, good.
I like the emphasis on that much access. Like there was still access though. Like don't get me wrong. It was
weird and it mostly looked like the art book.
Listen, also
midnight viewings of Skinamax.
Right. Also in the late teens, you could look at a brick wall, kind of cross your eyes a little bit, and see a naked woman that you could masturbate to. So.
Wow, dudes are just
there was
fascinating.
You forget about the more common source, which was torn up woods porn.
I never ever experienced torn up woods porn.
I did.
I have no idea what that is. What is that?
Okay, so it used to be a thing. And this is kind of apocryphal, but like it's one of those things where it's just kind of understood. So like when porn magazines were a thing, like less videos, but like before pre-internet, basically, men who did not want to be caught with these magazines at home, usually not even men, but like teen boys or whatever, would like bury them in like a secret spot in like the woods or whatever. And Dawn, I found some in that like you remember that weird area behind Meadowview? That was like fenced off, but you could get in under the fence. I found some torn up woods porn in there once. And
dude, that's the elementary school, you sick bastards.
Well, and I thought that the person who owned the property, that those are pictures of like women that he had like murdered or something, because that was the kind of kid that I was. And
it's
so,
the kid
like,
you still are, Leia.
I mean, that's true. Wow, it did start young.
but I mean, like that was it's I know like several other people that have been like, oh yeah, I found like some torn up woods porn that had just been, you know, buried or hidden out in the woods somewhere by some enterprising young man who's like, this is where I'm going to keep my stash, and then it just got damaged or destroyed by animals or whatever, you know. So you just
somebody else found it and took it.
Right, you find
like geocaching for porn.
Yes,
exactly.
I have this image in my head of like Tiny Toons Leia going and getting twine and sticks and starting to create grids to look for bodies.
I was very upset that nobody took me more seriously. I was like, guys, there's crimes going on in the woods.
Thank you. I mean, the crime is maybe a little bit different than anticipated, but you're still like, pants down in the woods.
I only found a quarter picture of something and it looked like half a butt. You know, this one might be in trouble. Like,
I know. Well, because like, how do you get a picture of a butt? Obviously, you took it yourself. You didn't. There's no magazines for that.
Right. You know?
Especially as kids, we're so naive that we're like, how else would you find this picture of a butt? And they're like, oh, honey.
Right, exactly.
I'll tell you when you're older.
So I never found woods porn. Like, I didn't even know the concept of woods porn. A few years ago, but like a bunch of my guy friends are like, yes, absolutely. But it probably would have done one of my friends good, because his little sister, who's 4 years younger than him, did find his stash, brought it to her parents, and asked why the lady had sand down there. She had
oh no.
Whoa.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Oh my God.
And so somebody told that story and everybody heard it and everybody started burying their shit in the woods.
And now it's on a podcast. We know about your shit.
Right. And
you are not original.
Oh my God, though. I didn't know that was a thing. Now I'm like, oh, I kind of want to search my backyard and find out how many stashes are back here. Like, because we're not the first people to live here. So,
well, but it'll only be 20-plus-year-old porn, because, you know, past that, like the modern version of it is hiding a folder within a folder within a folder within a folder.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah, like that
is true.
With the advent of the internet, torn up woods porn unfortunately is a dying breed, but you never know.
You never know what you'll find. I'm actually like, if I ever do metal detecting, that'll be really interesting. And a metal box would be like, is it finally one with porn? Yes. That's gonna be great. I'm telling you, geocaching for porn. That's
Yep.
like untapped arena there.
Yeah.
Nope, it's just a copy of Dawn with a Hot Topic receipt as a bookmark.
Like, just burying it in the yard. I mean, I get the secrecy of it, but like, does that also absolve you of your behaviors, or is that like if I bury it in the backyard, it's hiding and it doesn't count? Like,
Well, the other thing,
Not real.
once I started talking about it more freely with my other male friends, one of the things I also found out about it was that in some cases it was communal.
Yes.
So
yeah,
it was like
oh, sure, that would
all
make,
the boys
smart
in the
thinking.
area would like steal their dad's like older magazines or things like that, and then just take them to the same location, leave them, take a penny, leave a penny.
Right.
Yikes.
Like one of those little free libraries that we have
Yes,
in people's yards.
Yes.
libraries.
Oh my God, I'm never going to be able to look at those little tiny birdhouse looking libraries on people's lawn again. I'm going to be like, I bet you there's porn in there. Honestly, that's just plain clever, but yeah, that's really nasty though at the same time.
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, hey guys, I put some new Playboys in the hollow tree down by the creek, like that. Kind of shit.
Which, again,
Oh my God, that was
just
so
plain
Midwestern.
clever.
Yes.
That was so Midwestern, complete with crick.
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
And do you know what? In my mind's eye, I had the cover of a Hardy Boys book.
The mystery
Oh
of the
my God,
missing
the
woods porn.
Oh my God, I can see a Babysitter Club episode about that too.
Right.
You're like, babysit the kids while dad goes to look for his woods porn.
Quest for the missing woods porn.
It's an emergency. I need a babysitter now. It's like a crossover event.
Oh my God. Well, on that note, Dawn, thank you so much for joining us once again for almost
Thank you for having me.
almost 2 hours worth of just constant laughs.
Yep.
Good stuff. It's good stuff.
Let me see if I can see. Oh yes, tune in next time when it'll be back to me explaining once again, because we will be doing Onslaught, the
Hooray.
X-Men story, with our good friend Jesse Latorno. More X-Men.
Yay.
I gotta say, I definitely preferred the Marvel too. So even though I'm new to this whole thing,
Well, we'll do what we
Feeling
can to change your mind with this next storyline.
'Cause I don't know which way to take that.
This is Professor X and Magneto fusing together to form a villain.
Great.
Yep.
Cool.
Looking forward to reading that.
But until then, take it away, Vandello.
A little wreck conversation, some deep reactions, please. All this comics narration ain't elating me. A little more talk, a lot less read. A little fight, baby, is what I need. Close the trade, open up your brains. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Explain it to me, baby. Explain it to me. Vandello 2021.